All right. Hey there, everyone. It's Curly here, and welcome to episode 54 of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast down the other end of the internet, down there in that little place we love to call Adelaide or Radelaide, and the Fringe Festival is happening at this particular time in Adelaide. Please welcome Braggy, my co-host. How are you, Braggy?
Hey, I'm good, Curly. How are you? Yes, it's Mad March here in Adelaide. So we have the Fringe. We got WOMAD starting tomorrow.
Yeah.
We've got what else? Just the normal festival. There's just so much things. It's a good time to come. If you're ever going to come visit Adelaide, come in March.
Yeah.
Mad March, and also the footy season starts, and the weather's beautiful. It's autumn.
Yeah. There's a band down there that I'm going to reach out to. They're a female band. They're a three-piece, and they're playing as part of the Fringe. They played a gig at the Fringe on the Fringe. So I'm not and
on the fringe of the Fringe.
Yeah. So and they just
do you know where they're playing? No, you don't know.
No, that's what they called it. I saw it on one of their social media things. So I said,
Okay.
Hey, you guys look pretty cool. We need to get you on the podcast. I'm going to reach out to them. They're a band called Jermaine.
And they're an Adelaide band, though.
Yeah, they're an Adelaide band. So.
Oh, well, yeah, reach out to them, find out where they're playing. I'll go and see a gig and do a review.
Oh, that'll be cool. Okay, I will.
Yeah.
I will. Hey, what a week we've had. Now, last week, Mick Medew episode part 1. We've got part 2 today. Just the engagement on Facebook page has been incredible. Mick's, I put out that social media post where you asked me the question that I didn't ask, but if you were there, you would have asked, and Mick actually responded to it. He actually gave us the answer. So for the listeners, Braggy asked the question, where did the band name The 31st came from? And Mick actually responded to that little bit of a video on the video, and he said Ron got the idea for the name from a band from the 60s called The 31st of February.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
I just love these creative people, the
31st of February.
Yeah, and that's a band's name from
There
the
you
60s.
go.
So we might have to look that band up as well. Some of these obscure little bands that have influenced some of these artists.
I never drink on the 30th and the 31st of February.
They're the days you go dry.
That's the 2 days I go dry.
And of course we had some bad news during the week, didn't we, Brad?
Oh man, I'm just so glad it wasn't a hat trick. Like we lost 2. And Warnie's because he's younger than me. I guess he's younger than you as well.
52.
The guy was a magician, Curly, and I mean that. Like when he bowled, that's what he did. Because there's 3 parts to a trick. You show people the doves, or you show people the hat, or whatever, or just the simple balls or the coins.
Yeah.
And then the next part is the spin, which he literally did, the spin. Yeah. And then there's the reveal, And so he'd set guys up. He really was a magician. And the worst thing for me is, I mean, it's, apart from the sadness of the whole thing, is that we lost a compendium of knowledge about leg spin bowling. Yeah. And I know he passed a lot of it on, but I don't think he ever wrote a book about leg spin bowling, his biographies and stuff. So it's a massive loss.
Yeah, huge loss. And I can't believe how much it's affected people,
Yeah.
It's
and you feel a bit sorry for Marshy's family, but I guess, Marshy was a fantastic wicketkeeper, but he didn't change the game of cricket.
Yeah.
Like Warnie. And all of a sudden, leg spinning was cool.
Yeah, and when you think about leg spin prior to Warnie, we had a lot of finger spinners, the off spinners, in Australian cricket. And, Warnie made leg spin cool.
Yeah, the leg spinners were like Terry Jenner.
Yeah.
Very uncool.
Yeah.
Richie Benaud. I mean, he got cool later on, but wasn't really cool then.
And then everyone wanted to be a leg spinner. So
yeah.
But and you're right about that being a magician. There's been so much said about Warnie this week, and some of those things where he just says, I'm just going to do this, and then the next ball I'm just going to slide it in. And I'll see if it gets past him. And then,
he'd show the batsman something. Hey, this is what the batsman. Oh yeah, I see. And then next ball, gone.
Just slide it in, gone. And you just think that's control. So Shane Warne, I'm sure that there's been numerous people right around Australia that have shared a drink for your unfortunate and untimely passing. So of course, just a massive loss here in Australia. So Warnie,
and he was a music fan too. He had a few music mates, Ed Sheeran and what's his name from Coldplay.
Yeah, and
so he was a music fan too.
I guess that's the other thing, isn't it, Braggy? He was just. It wasn't just cricket fans that loved him.
No,
So, and exactly. When you talk about magicians, he's probably the only one that's had some really seriously bad things happen to him. We had the diuretics thing, and and he still rebounded and was still loved by people. So
that's good. Yeah, he's a normal guy, I guess. Yeah, he was like everyone knows someone like Warnie. Yeah. He's a bit of a dickhead, a bit of a wanker sometimes, but just a good bloke.
Absolutely. Hey, let's get straight into the interview. We've the last little bit that we've got with Mick. Some great commentary during the week, of course, and some great connections. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the connections that have happened since the interview, but it's incredibly exciting, some of the people that we're going to be talking with over the next couple of months. So I'm really excited about that. And just, the podcast has been incredibly well received. So first up, what I'm going to share is a little bit about some of the bands that they've supported. The Screaming Tribesmen, and it's almost like a who's who of music. And one of the things that you're going to find really interesting is there's another Doc Neeson reference. And when we spoke with Mick Blood, he had a Doc Neeson reference, and so does Mick Medew. So I think that once again, Doc's just one of those people that made a massive impact in Australian music. But before we do that, I'm just going to play the last of the Tribesmen songs, because I've got a couple here from the Rumours and the Mesmerisers tonight. So this is the last Tribesmen song, and it's from Bones and Flowers, the album, and it's a little bit different to what we sort of heard last week. It's a song called Girl of My Dreams. You would have played with a huge amount of bands, I'm imagining. Were there any bands that you really... Who was your favourite band to see live during that
time? Well, we ended up doing a national tour with the church.
Yeah.
In 1986, I think just before Bones and Flowers come out, Top of the Town was our release at the time. And yeah, saw them a lot. We went right around Australia with them, and our music seemed to get a bit lighter, and they seemed to get a bit heavier as the tour went on, you know.
Yeah.
And so I saw them a lot. When I first moved to Sydney, we played with the Hoodoo Gurus quite a lot. This is with James Baker, the early Hoodoo Gurus, Stone Age Romeos.
Yeah.
Played with them a lot, which I really liked them at the time. I really liked that lineup of the Hoodoo Gurus, and saw the Scientists a lot at the same time, and saw the Hitmen a lot. We played with a lot of bands, the Tribesmen. Tribesmen played with the Cult. We played with Jane's Addiction in Madison University, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Wow.
Who else? The Damned. Played with them recently too, with the Mesmerizers, well, a couple of years ago, 2017.
Yeah.
Played with the Damned a few times now. So yes, who else? Oh, gee.
It's almost like a who's who of who was running around at the time, Mick.
Yeah. We played with the Angels a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah, that would have been a strange mix.
It was. It was a very that was I like Doc Neeson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting with especially last week, Braggy, you made reference to some of the Tribesmen music and the likeness to some of the Angels music, but at that time they were two completely different markets. The Angels were this suburban crowd sort of thing, and the Tribesmen were in a city. They were like,
they were far more underground for sure.
Yeah,
the Tribesmen. Yeah.
So it was interesting. I love that bit where he talks about the church, was as they toured, the Tribesmen got a little bit lighter and the church got a little bit heavier.
Yeah, well, the last song you just played there has got a bit of a church feel to it, doesn't it? A little bit more laid back.
Yeah.
A little more jangly guitars rather than distorted guitars. So, yeah, that would have been a good mix. The two of those touring, yeah. And the Hoodoo Gurus.
Yeah, and that was when you think about it, James Baker was the original drummer with the Gurus, and Mark Kingsmill, is it? He was the one that took over there. So James went on and started doing some of his own things, I think. So if my memory serves me correctly. But Stone Age Romeos is just one of those classic Aussie albums, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I nearly... For our 7-inch, I nearly picked the Hoodoo Gurus. I probably should have now that he's mentioned them, but so it's all right.
No worries. So
save it for another day.
Absolutely. Now, the next part of the interview, we're going to talk a little bit about what's happened since the Tribesmen. So now, I saw you and the Rumours when the Radio Birdmen played Reformed up here. I think that would have been about 2016, 2017 maybe. I think they played it, is it the Triffid? And Died Pretty were also on the list. But you guys, I think, opened the night, or Mick Medew and the Rumours opened the night. How did the Rumours come into being? And then what's the journey been for you since? So...
Well, Tribesmen's kind of finished officially, I guess, in about 96.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of just took a break from the whole kind of live scene for a while,
Yeah.
And, went through a divorce in the year 2000. I've been married in 92, and things have kind of taken a turn in my life, and I wasn't that keen on staying in music. I was going to try and break out into something else. I didn't quite know what,
Yeah.
And I moved back to Brisbane at the end of 2002.
Yeah.
And by then I'd sort of started kind of playing. But not live, I was writing music and playing with friends again, but not sort of performing live. And when I was up here, I got enticed into playing in this band with friend of ours, Paul Hawker, who'd played in a lot of different bands up here, and I was good friends with him, and we started the Rumours together. It was really his band. Although I wrote the songs, we rehearsed at his place, and he sort of, was knew a lot about music and was a kind of a good person to play with. And we recruited Ash Geary and Chris Dixon, and the four of us were the Rumours, and we had quite a good innings together. Paul unfortunately passed away in 2010.
Yeah.
That was pretty sad, obviously.
Very much so. Yeah.
And it was good getting on my feet again. It wasn't my intention to keep on with music when I came back to Brisbane, but I guess it's kind of followed me around,
And the Mesmerisers, so after the Rumours, it's Mick Medew and the Mesmerisers, and of course you've got music on Spotify, and we'll share all those links in the show notes for the listeners. Similar sort of a story, it just sort of formed naturally?
Yeah, well, Brian Mann, who had played in the Girlies and played in Ed Cooper, and had come to Europe with me in the Screaming Tribesmen, their first tour of Europe in 1991. So a bit of a history there with him.
Yeah.
And, and now back with Michael Charles again.
Okay.
On drums. Yeah. Of course he played on Date with a Vampire and was in the Screaming Tribesmen with me, and my other band that I had in Sydney called the Wolfgang. Yeah. With Janine Hall and Michael. And we recruited Lois Andrews, who's a friend of Brian's, and so I guess we kind of got that tribesman thing happening a bit, because Lois is a really good singer, like Bob Wackley was, a great singing bass player kind of thing. Yeah. And Brian's got a good voice, so we get the harmonies going, and Michael's a great drummer, so I love being in the Mesmerisers. We had a good show at the end of the year for the return to White Chairs up here at the Triffid. That was great fun, and we've got at least a couple of albums, and we're probably going to try to release new music this year as well.
Excellent.
How can you say, "Oh, I'm not going to do music anymore"? It's just it's never going to happen, is it?
Yeah.
If once you grow up with it and you're that deeply involved in it.
And I love the way that it just sort of follows him around. I mean, it wasn't his intention to start a band, and then it just sort of happened.
Yeah, well, I suppose if all your mates and all the people you hang with are all musicians and into music, something's always gonna, something's always gonna happen.
Yeah, and I guess that's not the only. I mean, music must be really hard. Touring for relationships, whether married.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you'd imagine that just going through that divorce and having that break, that breakup based around potentially the touring life has added a lot of pressures into that. I mean. Yeah, it's a very interesting space, but it's so that's what he's been doing since the trial.
Yeah, it's just but cool. He hooks up, with some of the older guys from from back where it all started. Everything goes full circle.
And the other thing that I just love, and I see this with you too, Tave, is that you've always got these side projects as well. You might have one main band that you're sort of playing in, but there's this one over there, and then there's this other one over there. And
well, especially if you're into different sorts of music, some things suit some people, some don't. You think, oh, that guy, I love the way he's right into this, and so you talk about jazzy stuff with him, and you talk about something else, or some of your friends that you got a connection with blues, and so you think, oh, well, let's do some bluesy stuff with them. Yeah, it's always
it's interesting.
Always something happening.
Yeah.
So you can never learn it all, Tony. You just got to,
Yeah.
Always learning.
So, how many times do you think in the history of rock and roll has a jam session evolved into becoming a band involved, and then evolving into some sort of success?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it wouldn't. Yeah, it would happen a fair bit. But I mean, if you think of all the jams, you know, it'll have to click. Sometimes it just clicks, and you go, "Oh, yeah, we got to do something because this just feels right."
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. So I'm going to, before we go into the next interview, and we talk a little bit about international touring in the next segment of the interview. But let's hear a little bit from the Rumours. And, you know, the Rumours have got, I think, one album out on Spotify. I'm probably wrong, Mick. If I've got that wrong, I'm sorry. But I think the album's called... Well, I'm going to play. I'm not playing the album song title. I'm playing one of the covers on the album, and it's a song. The original song's done by the Only Ones, and this is a cracker version of "Another Girl, Another Planet." So this is Mick Medew and the Rumours with "Another Girl, Another Planet."
Yeah, good cover.
With
good version.
With your international tours, where was your favourite because of the crowd response, the fan response? So you've mentioned Europe, you and parts of Europe. You've mentioned the US. Where was your most favourite in terms of who were your biggest fan bases?
In 1991, when the Tribesmen, when we released Bloodlust, that album was licensed to a German label called Normal, and I guess we had our biggest crowds in Germany and in German Switzerland. Places like Berlin and Zurich, and Stuttgart, and we played all over Germany. You name it, Dusseldorf.
And that must have
Heidelberg,
been
Cologne.
that must have been an amazing experience.
It was. It really was. It was really, really wonderful to see that, that part of the world, being Australian and seeing all this history, and all these places that are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old,
Yeah, absolutely.
And going to Italy and seeing, things that are thousands of years old. Yeah, it was a bit of an eye opener. It was a lot to take in. We're playing almost every night. That first tour went for 7 weeks, mostly Germany and France. But yeah, like I said, the German part of Switzerland.
That's a pretty full-on schedule, 7 weeks in a row.
Yeah. I think we had about 10 days off all up. I think, and the whole thing, and it was like that over there. Because when you stop, if you haven't got a gig that night, it's like it becomes very expensive to be there then, kind of thing. So you're working all the time. Yeah, but I think Germany, we were very well received, and then in the German parts of Switzerland, a lot of fans in France too. Spain too. I would really like to go back there again. I think they gave us a wonderful reception in 2012 at the Esquina Festival. And I'd like to go back to Rennes in France.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the club that we played at last time, the Mondo Bizarro, that's now closed. But I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen with this next release with Ursula. We'll wait and see, I guess.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
I know Dave Graney and Claire Moore have offered to be our rhythm section when we go and play in Melbourne. So that'll be
excellent.
That'll be something to look forward to.
Yeah.
That's always something on the horizon. So.
Dave Graney. Is there anybody cooler in Australian music?
Oh, he wore safari suits, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he's image. Just cool. Just his delivery. Yeah, that's cool. Wow. Yeah. Just there's something. What was the name of that club? There must be
he's got that link to it, and he knows that it's closed down. So but those places like Germany, there'd be just so many cool little clubs because it's. Yeah. I mean, I've been to Berlin, and it's open 24/7. It doesn't shut down like any other big city, New York, London. So there'd be some of those coolest little clubs, and you always see those clips. I see a lot on YouTube. A lot of the clips. People playing live in Germany, they seem to really appreciate live music. Yeah. There's a couple of clips of the Tribesmen playing that Estonia festival that he was talking about.
In Spain.
Yeah. So that's also pretty impressive. But what I really liked about that little segment is that as well as the music and the venues, he's talking about the place and the city and, the history and the sightseeing and... that would be something that you'd get into as well.
It would.
Yeah.
It would. It strikes me that Mick is a little bit deeper thinker than a lot of other, musicians. Maybe I don't know. He sees the bigger picture. I think.
Yeah, I'm here in Italy.
Not as much of a party guy.
Yeah, I'm here in Italy. I'm going to see the sights, and
I'm gonna. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a big history fan, so I can see why he'd be into that.
Yeah. Interesting. Very much so.
Yeah.
So let's, the next little bit is we're going to be talking about this time of life with him. So what I'll do is I've got a Mesmerizers song here, and this is a song called Open Season. So we can keep talking while I set that up because it's got a little bit of blank space at the beginning.
Well, just on the Another Girl, Another Planet,
Yeah.
I think so many people I think Blink 182.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, they
I think
did.
Blink 182. Did they? Yeah. So, yeah. But that was a good version of that. They did that
I think
a lot of energy. It's good.
Yeah, it's such a classic song.
Yeah.
And it was the
Good
only
lyrics.
ones, I'm sure. Great lyrics. And, Blink 182, I think, it sped it up a little bit too, which sort of took...
Well, they speed everything up, don't they?
So this is a song from the Mesmerizers. Their album's called Open Season. So there's a little bit of blank space here as we play the video. So, but it keeps...
The train to where the angels sing. I'm gonna lose myself in the next to nothing. I ain't gonna budge. I ain't gonna move. You're gonna know.
Must be enjoying this
Cool.
phase of life. I mean, you're getting to play music with your wife. It's a different style. You're having some fun with it by the looks, as well as producing some really good stuff. So this must be a phase of your life that you're really starting to enjoy, Mick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do feel good at the moment. About a lot of things. I was just very lucky with Ursula. It was because of the lockdown. We were already been going out together for a few years, 2 or 3 years before. We never really intended playing together. That never really sort of entered our heads,
Yeah.
We were just stuck at home in 2020. And we thought, why don't we just kind of just play and everyone was stuck inside their house, and all of a sudden we were learning a big repertoire of songs and live streaming from home, live streaming onto social media from home and learning about how to do all that. And all of a sudden, I had a whole new thing. And it was good because, you don't want to be it's nice to be able to play by yourself, but the real joy in music is playing with other people, even if it's just the two of you. If it's one other person, it's great. I'd sooner be playing with Ursula than doing the solo thing.
Yeah.
And it's great having my band, who are, hot band, tight smoking band, as Dennis Tech told me. So yeah, I mean, there's someone who must know. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased about the Mesmerisers.
Yeah, excellent.
We'll see what 2022 brings. I think there's going to be a lot of artists wondering. We'll soon see. Tony.
And hopefully, if this COVID thing starts to disappear, I think we're going to see a lot of musicians and musos on the road again, which will be absolutely fantastic. And the benefit of lockdowns.
That's it. Something good comes out of everything, Tony.
Yeah.
And that song you just played before, I mean, that was, he's like a chameleon in some ways, isn't he? That was a little bit funky.
Yeah.
That one had some really good bass lines in it.
Yeah, when I listen to that one, there's a lot of influences in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite
sure.
Well,
you can tell it's a song written by someone who's been in the music industry a while, I think. It's not something you write right from the set go. It's someone who's heard a lot of different stuff but that's the thing. We said before, he comes in and he's just musicians are attracted to him, and each musician brings a different thing, and that's what's so exciting. That's why you never stop, because when 5 or 4 personalities get together, something's always going to come out different. Even if it's 2 people who've played before together for a long time, and 2 other people come in, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
And it's exciting.
One of the real quotes that I loved, what Mick talked about, is the real joy in music is playing with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it's, I mean, I can never describe what that's like. It's so spontaneous, and it's a weird. I don't think science can describe it. It's a weird thing. It's 5 different brains.
Yeah.
And you're all tuned. That's why sometimes when bands click, it's so moving. You must have been to a concert and the band is right on the money, and all 5 of them or all 4 of them are all just become one. And the power of that is so incredible if you're in the audience. And then when the audience joins into that vibe as well,
Just
that's why when you go and see an orchestra, if you ever go, I don't know if you ever go and see an orchestra, Tony, if you ever go and see orchestra, and if you get freaking 30 musicians that are all tuned to one, it can bring you to tears,
Yeah. The power of music. So... It's and Dennis Tech, and he another Birdman person.
Birdman.
So if he's
bass,
talking,
he played bass, did he? No. What did Dennis Tech play?
Wasn't he the guitar player? Wasn't he the frontman?
Singer?
Yeah,
he's a singer. Dennis Tech was a singer.
So if he's saying the Mesmerisers are pretty good, that's a pretty good testimonial for the Mesmerisers. So let's hope 22 there's some new music, and maybe if Ursula and Mick put out some music, and we can get them back on the show, and we'll get them on video this time, so we'll overcome their fear of technology.
I want to see him play with Dave Graney. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, that would be good. So that's when they head off to Melbourne. So yeah, fingers crossed 22 stays relatively COVID free. So we've got one last little snippet of the interview, and then I'm just going to play one last song. And this is a solo song that Mick put out that I'll be playing. So I just asked Mick about what advice that he would potentially give to young bands today. So let's listen to the last little snippet, and then we'll listen to the final song. I guess there's a little bit of a concern with less and less music venues being around. So what sort of advice would you give to a young band today that are wanting to, make it or play a bit of music that, maybe a little bit independent, maybe a little bit out of the mainstream? What sort of advice would you give them?
Oh, gee. Yes, it would be tough starting out, that's for sure. I think you've got to be as resourceful as you can be yourself, these days in music, like I remember when I was growing up, a lot of time was spent at other people's rehearsal rooms,
Yeah.
and trying to work out transportation and all that kind of stuff. I think you've got to be as resourceful as you can these days, if you can, have somewhere of your own where you can get together,
Yeah.
and you've got to try to be as self-sufficient as you can, and try not to be sort of too dependent on the outside. I think you've got to try and make your own resources from within,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose that
it can cost an awful lot of money, to be in a group, and bands don't get paid, as much money these days, I don't think. And look, in the 80s, I'm very fortunate in New South Wales when I moved there in 83. There was a pub on every corner, and all the pubs had bands.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different landscape these days.
Very much so.
And yeah.
I mentioned we had Steve Bell on the podcast recently, and we talked about the times in Brisbane where you'd be looking at the gig guide in Sydney and you'd be thinking to yourself, and Brisbane had a great scene. I mean, there were some great bands come out of Brisbane, but we'd look at that Sydney gig guide and we'd say, what bands would you choose to go and see? It was just like you were spoilt for choice because there was just so many good bands playing around. Spy versus Spy, the Happy Hate Me Nots are just two that, at that particular stage, you guys were playing around. Ups and Downs were down there at the time. So it was just a world of riches. And unfortunately, the bands today, they've either got to make it through YouTube or doing something out of the ordinary on Facebook. So it really is a different part of the world, and that resourcefulness and resilience that bands need is fantastic advice. So, Mick, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you this afternoon. I've really, really enjoyed the conversation. I really treasure the time that you've given to us today. It's been a real pleasure speaking with you. I've really enjoyed it. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Well done, Tony.
When the river's high, when you blow your fuse, when you realize you were born to lose, when the wood is brown and they do it now, when the word is out, when your cover's blown, tell me how's it feel? Now you're on your own, when the wood is brown and they do it now.
So that one's from Mick, and it's called When the Wood is Brown. And once again, just different again, isn't it? So just you can
Interesting that we started the whole conversation last week with a vampire girl, and then we're back in the graveyard at the end. something a little bit of the mixed psyche there.
Yeah. So we've had two Micks now. We've had Mick Blood, we've had Mick Medew, both absolute legends out of that 80s and 90s independent scene, and both fantastic interviews, but such a huge contrast as well.
Yeah, and it's been really enjoyable exploring that. The Brisbane underground scene, you know.
Oh, Lime Spiders were more Sydney.
Well, I guess and Sydney, but you know, it's been that you know, similar band, similar genre. It's just been good to see, you know, and interesting road stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which you know, I guess because some of our earlier interviews we've done on this channel have not been people really touring, so they don't have a lot of touring stories. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and it is a different world nowadays, isn't it? I mean, people.
Oh yeah, it's much harder. You think about it, you know. I was going to mention though. I mean, and Mick's a survivor though. That's the other thing I was going to say about him. Hey, he's just a survivor. But Triple J, you know, we've got a lot to thank them for promoting and keeping. They have that, you know, what's their little thing, the competition they have where you send in stuff, you know, like new artists things. They really do a lot of work for the music industry. You know. Yeah,
they used to when Triple J first came in.
Undiscovered.
Unearthed, wasn't it?
Unearthed, that's the one I'm thinking of.
So they used to do Cooking with George. And what they did with that is, I know a number of bands that were actually on that. They'd go and record a band, you know, Huxton Creepers were on Cooking with George, a band called the Skeletones. Shower Scene from Psycho were a Melbourne band that were on Cooking with George. And they'd put out this album, a set of 12 EPs, all with these bands from around Australia on the Cooking with George set. And so they always had that Australian music and flavour right from the very start.
I guess one thing, there's less, like we talked, there's less pubs and things, maybe less venues like that to play, but there's more festivals. There's lots more festivals now than there was. Lots of little independent festivals here and there. And I think that's where a lot of the younger bands get their chance to shine.
I'm actually going to see with my daughter and my wife a band called Eliza and the Delusionals coming up very soon. So and that's going to be an interesting one. And I mentioned the Brisbane band called the Mangroves, which is an incredibly interesting band. I'm popping out to see them very soon. So, but so
I was sent a text this morning, Tony, by a friend of mine. I didn't mention this earlier, who lives on the Gold Coast. I used to work in a music shop with him up in Townsville.
Okay.
He's the Sheik of Shred, I call him. He's a bit of a metal sort of fan, and he said you should check out a band called Fumarole. Fumarole.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't actually listened to it yet. I promised I would listen to it. I haven't listened to it yet, but so I'll have a listen. I think it's heavier sort of stuff.
Okay,
but it's another Brisbane band. So and if Louis recommends it, they got to be okay.
Yeah, okay.
So I might do that.
What else? Louis been good on the Facebook page, just quietly as well. So
there you go.
Welcome on board, Louis. So
Louis Bajardo.
Yeah,
he's a ledge.
Absolutely. So
that man's got a record collection. I'll tell you now.
So just from a personal point of view, I enjoyed talking with Mick Medew so much. I enjoyed speaking with Mick Blood so much. It took me back to those days and of the 80s and the 90s where, you know, music still dominates live, but in such a way that it was almost everything. It was, what band am I going to go see this Saturday night? What do we do on Friday night? And it was just amazing. And you know, to meet a true gentleman and someone so highly regarded and thought of in the music industry as Mick Medew, and was just amazing. So, so a couple of really good connections have come from that. But as I said, I don't want to jinx them, so we'll talk about them a little bit later on.
What have we got coming up, Tony?
Well,
or are
we've
we
got
doing
our
the sevens?
7-inch. Now,
We're doing the sevens?
Now, one thing I've got to remind you is that we do have an audio version of this go out every week on podcast platforms. And often when you just hold up your 7-inch single, you don't say to people what it is. You just...
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I'm going to say
So
now.
don't forget that we do have an audio version.
Sorry. My bad.
So you going first or am I going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Well, Mick, the both Micks mentioned Doc Neeson.
Yeah.
And Mick Medew mentioned touring with the Angels, which we both thought was a bit strange.
Yeah.
So I've got a bit of a rarity here. And what I'm going to hold up for the listeners is the Angels, and it's an EP. It's called the Tour EP.
Okay.
It's got After the Rain, Who Rings the Bell, and Coming Down.
Oh.
So that's that side of it. I'm holding up the front, listeners.
What year was that?
78.
Wow, it is early.
Yep, it's Albert Productions. When they were with Albert Productions, which is the same as AC/DC. So I think they kind of left them after that. I'm not sure when they did that. There's the back of it.
Yeah.
But I think that's a fairly rare one, yeah, because it is on the Albert. Let's have a look. I'm going to hold up. Yeah, see, it's on the Albert Productions label.
That's a great one, Braggy.
Thank you.
That is.
What have you got,
awesome.
Curly?
Well, I've mentioned this band before, and I've mentioned this particular song before. It's a band called the Zimmermen, and they're a Melbourne band, and this is their single that was called "Don't Go to Sydney." And this is, there was a lot. Being around at the time, there was a lot of competition between Melbourne and Sydney, and one of the other interesting things I picked up from Mick last week was that they got to America before the pack, so you could see that there was competition with all these bands. But this is the song called "Don't Go to Sydney." It came out on All Go Go Records, about 86, I think it is. All Go Go.
And I noticed that the front cover there's got all these coat hangers,
empty coat hangers.
And I wonder what's the reference there. I wonder.
Probably reference to all the bands that were leaving. Or people that were leaving Melbourne to go to Sydney. So,
maybe.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a love song, believe it or not.
And the Zimmermen.
The Zimmermen. They put out an album that was actually, I've got it on CD somewhere. But it's a great album. I don't know if it's available on streaming platforms, but they were a much underrated band, the Zimmermen. Crazy name, stupid name. I think that probably had something to do with them not going as far as what they could have. So,
okay,
awesome. So what's happening next week? We've got a conversation at 9:00 in the morning next Thursday. Don't forget that.
Oh, that's right, 9:00. I've got to remember. Oh shit! Remind me, Tony.
Yeah, we're going back to Nashville. All right.
I'm going to wear my hat.
So we're speaking with Alison Asarch, and she's released her album From Texas to Tennessee. So we'll be talking all things her album, talking about playing on the main street. And interesting, on her Facebook, I think her social media, she recently posted that where she launched her album is actually closing down. So,
wow.
So venues are closing down right around the world, which is...
Okay, that's sad.
Yeah, it is. So,
but it's going to be good to talk to Alison.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about this show. If you're a first-time listener, we go from the stale beer-smelling underground venues of Brisbane and Sydney to the sparkling lights and the rhinestones of Nashville.
Absolutely.
In 1 week.
and we love it. And she'd have to go close to having one of the best smiles in country music. Yeah.
Oh, and one of the most positive attitudes.
Yeah.
Of anyone we've had on the show.
So if you've popped in to visit us and listen to the Mick Medew, make sure you pop in next Thursday.
Definitely.
And listen to Alison Asarch, country music from Nashville. The week after that, it's either Blake Carteris, a new guy from Sydney, who's put out his first single on Spotify, or it's the Ritzies. I think it's the Ritzies the week after, so it must be Blake the week after Allison. So we've got some new music coming up, and then of course we got the Ritzy kids who are playing live, and I shared that on the Facebook page. So
okay,
well, that's another show in the can, Braggy. Somehow
that's show 54. I'm going to name it. I'm going to have something for every number from now on. I've decided. So 54 is for Studio 54,
okay.
The disco era.
So for everyone listening, follow us on Facebook. We've got our YouTube channel, of course. Just search for Unfiltered and Undiscovered, and you'll be able to follow us on those platforms. We're also on TikTok, and we're having a little bit of fun with TikTok. So
are we?
You get little snippets. It's
okay. I'll have to check it out.
You will. I know you don't get into social as much as what I do, but it's no,
but that's good that you do that, Tony. I do. I check it out, things out every now and again.
Yeah. We've also got our website, of course, at Unfiltered and Undiscovered.com. We've got our playlists on Spotify, and we'll be adding all the songs from tonight onto that playlist. So I think we'll be sitting around just I'd say 75 songs. So that gives you a real blend of who we've spoken to, and hopefully gives them a little bit of kick. Maybe 2 or 3 new followers, who knows. So follow the
What are we
band.
going to do, Tony? Are we going to keep going? Are we just going to go maybe to 100, and then we'll do another playlist? And this can be the Unfiltered, Undiscovered first 100.
Yeah, good idea.
Second 100.
We can do anything, Braggy. So
we can.
We just make
it up as we go along.
So as always, it's been a huge pleasure having and a huge honour to have people join us and actually listen to us two dickheads talk music, and we have a lot of fun. In the words of Jagger and Richards, you know what I'm going to say. It's only rock and roll, but we love it.
We
We'll
do.
see you all again next week.
Bye, listeners and viewers.